had two presentations. We had a presentation on a Medicaid reimbursement program that we are eligible to possibly get $50,000 to $60,000 a year in reimbursements if we would like to take advantage of that program. And also we had a presentation from Cheryl Mueller at Moran on a possible due diligence audit for our insurance. It's where they go and they analyze our entire insurance program and let us know if we're getting a good deal, if they think that we could get a better deal elsewhere. And we kind of came from that meeting that I'm maybe going to look at a couple other options of different vendors who do the same thing, because the cost to do the audit is a little bit pricey. So I'm going to look at some other options from like the Goen and Bray vendor and maybe another one to see what kind of pricing they can give us to do the same type of audit. So.
The safety committee met on December 4th. We talked about the first snowfall, and we had 3 employees that fell because of the snow and the ice. So we're trying to work through some of those issues to prevent that. We'd have one of those was a bus driver that she will be off through at least probably mid-January. So hopefully she'll be back soon. You know, the second, we also talked about the second round of the grant money is out from OFSC or OFCC, depending on who you see, talk to. But it's the grants that allow you to have some tighter controls on the entryways to the buildings, $5,000 per building. So, you know, that's a possibility of pulling in some money. They've changed the way they're doing it this time. This time they want you to actually do it. They'll approve it, they'll let you do it, and then they'll reimburse you. So we might have to put out some money and then get reimbursed for that. But it's a good way to get paid for having some more security in the building. We passed down and reviewed the School Safety Committee report from September 26, 2013. And we reviewed that. I gave a copy to all the people that were there and asked them to read over it and come back. And on January 8th at 4:15, when we meet again, we're going to have some more discussion about that. We also had a discussion about a member of the community did a presentation to the superintendent, myself, and the police chief from Clear Creek Township and one lieutenant from Springboro on some proactive policing program that was, you know, worthy of providing them information. Got some feedback from them, and they're going to look at, you know, they're just going to look at their buildings and see if it's a possibility to use in the future. So that's what we had, and our next meeting is January 8th at 4:15 at the board office.
And then tomorrow we have policy committee, correct?
That is correct. We have 5 policies for review, and we also have over 20 policies from Neola due to state or federal changes in the law that need to be looked at that have already been redlined and sent out to the committee. So it will be a busy policy.
And then are we going to have, I know we talked about the medication policy that was approved at the last board meeting.
Bronwyn is coming back, a district nurse, to discuss some specifics.
What it is, just to give you a heads up on it, and actually, we were listening to what you said, Mr. Regano, about making an inconvenience for parents. So we're now legally, we're allowed to have, I think it's 9 different over-the-counter medications. We can purchase them. And if a parent just sends us a note, up to 3 times if the child needs ibuprofen or Midol, whatever it is, they can just go to the nurse's office and get it. But of course, we would pay for it up front, which I'm pretty sure all of you are going to be fine on anything we ask like that to do with it. So that would be a real convenience to parents. They simply just send a note with their child, and we can make that happen.
Sounds like a good solution.
Yep. Bronwyn, I talked with her the next morning about it. She went out and found that. I guess Bellroot or someone does that. So she was able to pull their policy, and we're going to try to amend those 2 together and have it for first reading next board meeting.
Item 10.2, we have a presentation by Kyle Martin and Andrea Cook.
Yeah, I would just like to first and foremost recognize not only Kyle and Andrea, but the high school staff, particularly the counselor staff and our department chairs. This was a massive undertaking, and all the things that the high schools had to do this one, I thought to myself, oh man, this is a big change right here. And they did a great job on this, getting this taken care of. And actually, from my understanding, this is the final copy today from the printer. So nonetheless.
Scouring through, I found two things that are not accurate. Of course, otherwise,
Well,
it's pretty close.
Jim just got it, so you better hold on. So, that's what the special meeting is about. Next week, we need to get this approved so that we can start allowing kids to sign up towards the end of January so that we can start scheduling. And this year, it's going to be imperative that we schedule as soon as possible because we're sharing so much staff now with the junior high and the 6th grade building that they're dependent on the high school to get their schedule finished first so that they can see the staff that's going to be left for them to use at those buildings to determine if we need to hire any more staff. And this is also going to play possibly into the 1st grade moving to Clear Creek because we will have to share art, music, and PE there as well. So that's why I felt it was imperative that we were able to meet next week and hopefully get this thing approved and signed off on.
Thank you. As Mr. Petrie said, this has been a very collaborative effort to get the program of studies really close to where we want it, hopefully mistake-free. Our department chairs and our council for the high school have spent a lot of time as well making a lot of changes that have been necessary to make, from addition of classes to also some state mandates that we had to add into the first 13 or 14 pages that we'll kind of highlight a little bit here. So this has been a pretty massive undertaking. The goals for the program of studies, obviously we always are continuing to try to maximize college and career readiness for all of our students through some of the addition of our classes that you'll see here in a little bit. Hopefully you'll be able to see that. Raising the rigor of our curriculum through some honors additions as well as a few AP classes that we're going to be adding into our program of studies next year. Addressing individual students' needs through the levels of courses. Obviously us adding some honors courses, it gives us that ability to do so. Increasing student choices in some electives, more students to experience college coursework or college experience. I know this year we had a American Government 101 style class that's been held in the LGI. We're going to continue that, look to increase that. We're also starting to talk about possibly having maybe a film and lit class in the LGI as well to create more of a college experience for that as well. And then also one of our big goals that Mr. Petrie highlighted on is starting our scheduling process early 2nd semester, which would be hopefully the end of January. Graduation credit requirements, obviously for this year and for the class of 2016, which will be our juniors, with 21 credits. That has been the same for years now. Moving on to the next slide, it will change. For the class of 2017 and beyond, we're going up to 22 credits. Where we get that other credit is having the half a credit for financial literacy, which is going to be a requirement, and then increasing a half a credit for an elective. So that's how we get from 21 to 22. This is pretty in line with a lot of neighboring districts, high-performing districts. A lot of them are having students graduate with 22. Just so people in the community are aware, we have a lot of kids that leave with 25, 26, 27. So, this is not something where it's a minimum. A lot of our students are reaching 22 credits sometimes by the time they're finishing with their junior year. So we have kids leaving with a lot of credits, a lot more than this. But this is going to be one of our graduation requirements.
We've seen a lot of changes from the state, which has really pushed us on this program of studies this year. And the first one that I want to highlight is the change from students taking the OGT to the park-based assessments. So we have performance assessments in the wintertime and end-of-course exams in the spring. Those students that will be taking those in English 1, English 2, Algebra 1, Geometry, Physical Science, U.S. History, and Government. This will be the last year for our 10th graders to take the OGT. So those students that are in the class of 2018 and beyond will be required to take all 7 tests, and they are expected to gain a total of 18 points cumulative on those 7 tests. So each test is worth 5 points, and students must have 2 points. Take questions at the end if you don't mind. Each student must be required to take 2 points in the English and also the English 2. So we'll take your question at the end, Mr. Weaver. The minimum number of courses that we require our students to have, and this is not new, but rather a repeat from years previous, is that we like our freshmen and sophomores had to take 6 courses and our juniors and seniors to take a minimum of 5. So we're somewhat front-loading those 22 credits for our students. We also do that in an effort for any of our youngsters who are interested in going to the Career Center, so we like to see them get some of the electives out of the way prior to leaving us, as well as their health and their PE, etc. Our electives for this coming year, students will be given a choice of all courses that you'll find in the program of studies, and their choices will drive our scheduling process. So if we have 56 students who sign up for film and lit, we know we're going to have 2 classes of film and lit. So that's how we go about it. We don't start out with the schedule and then retrofit the kids into the schedule, but we rather look and see where our interests lie, and that's how we staff our programs. So our elective choices will include coursework that's offered through College Credit Plus. That's another new term from the state that has just come down within the last month with programs at Butler County, University of Cincinnati, and then also we'll be going up to Montgomery County to learn more about this. But this is very much new. The College Credit Plus does combine our dual enrollment classes, which are courses that are offered here in the building for college credit, and our PSEO courses, whereby our students leave our building and then they go to area colleges such as Wright State, UD, Sinclair, and Miami. So that is now called College Credit Plus. PSEO and dual enrollment are no longer terms that you'll be seeing us use in the future. Again, we will be basing all courses that are staffed by Springboro High School teachers with a minimum of 17 students per course.
Weighted courses, this is a change that we discussed at the building and district level, and one that we are proposing. In the past, historically, our honors and AP courses have had a weight of 10 points. We're proposing that our AP courses maintain the 10-point weight, but our honors be reduced down to a 5-point weight. When you look at the courses that we have our CP, which would be our college prep, we have our honors, which would be that next tier, and then the tier as far as rigor is concerned on top of that would then be our AP. So we feel like that scales up to that AP level, which is what allowed us to go from that 10 to the 5 for the honors courses. Something we've talked about collaboratively with department chairs, with counselors, and with central office. So that is one change that you will see in the program studies as far as a proposal, something that's really different from years in the past. And I want to make sure we explain that, so you kind of had a little bit of reasoning of why we made that decision for offering that proposal. Looking at our new course offerings, the 3 AP courses that we are going to include in our program studies is our AP Microeconomics, which will be through our business department, our AP Physics 2, which I know was talked about in the plans last year, but this year will be coming into play for the 2015-16 school year. And then also an AP World History, which our students take World History as freshmen, so that class will be available for freshmen as well as sophomores, juniors, and seniors. So that'll be available for any student that wants to take AP World. Our honors physical science, honors biology, those are new courses. Right now we have CP level courses, and we have just regular biology and regular physical science. So we're actually wanting to include the honors level courses for physical science and biology, which would be your freshman science and your sophomore science. Also, our honors geometry, honors algebra 2, and our honors pre-calc. So that's some of the additions as far as the rigor that we talked about in the beginning, as far as enhancing our student learning, getting them college ready, is offering some of those classes. Also, sports management marketing for an elective, concert orchestra for an elective, and then our project lead-the-way classes, which would be our principles of engineering design, which our students who are currently in introduction to this class will be taking that principles of engineering design, which would be year 2. And then also an introduction to engineering design for girls. There's a school district in a suburb of Columbus, Hilliard-Davidson High School, which would be our Hilliard City Schools. It's a very, very large district. Successful, though, academically. They have had a design for girls class for that, so that's kind of where we picked up that model from, and something we're going to try to get going next year for our girls students. International language adjustments, we call this adjustments. We made these adjustments to provide a little bit of consistency across the program of studies. In the past, these classes have been called Spanish 2, non-honors, Spanish 2 honors, where all the other courses have been just called CP and honors. So really what we did here is just adjusted our names to where we now have, instead of having a Spanish 2 non-honors and then Spanish 2 honors, we have a CP Spanish 2 and then an honors Spanish 2. So as you go through that program of studies, hopefully it allows parents to kind of flow through that a little bit more, helps maybe make it less confusing than maybe it has been in years past. But this is just some of the adjustments we have made. Not an increase in offerings, but we just have renamed these classes so it's consistent with other departments in the program of studies. Obviously, at the end, it talks about all latest courses that are not taught at the honors level, other than our AP, now have that title of CP.
And rewinding back to our College Credit Plus online offerings, we have streamlined this into 5 courses. As if you've been coming to board meetings over the past year, you're aware that we do not offer any of our College Credit Plus or previously dual enrollment courses that are the same as what we're offering through our teachers here at the high school. So as you can see from these five offerings, you will not see those anyplace else within the program of studies that our teachers are teaching. So these are taught online here in the library. Our librarian oversees that program, and students log on and they have a Sinclair instructor that advises them online, teaches them online. They gain 3 credits from that program, and then that is transferred here, so they get Carnegie units on their transcript as well as a college transcript to take with them to whatever university or college or post-secondary institution they choose to go to after they leave us. And at this time, we are concluding our program of studies. We encourage you to look this up on Board Docs. We have the latest version as of 3:15 this afternoon posted. If you have any comments, we would be delighted to hear them. If there's any changes that we need to make, I'd let the graphics company know that they will be hearing from us over the course of the next week with any other adjustments or anything that we might find with our fine-tuning thumb between now and then.
Do we have that on the high school page as well?
We have not posted it yet because it has not been approved, but it is on
We
Board
put it on
Docs.
there though as a brief so we get feedback from parents there.
Yep.
Board docs, sometimes we need to deal with.
We can do that.
That'd be good.
Mr. Wiedemann?
When are they taking that park assessment as opposed to the OGT?
When will they take that?
Freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year?
It depends on when the courses are taken. So if a student is taking Algebra 1 as a freshman, he or she will take that as a freshman. If a child is taking Algebra 1 as an 8th grader, he or she will take that in 8th grade. So it's during the time at which the student takes the course.
Is it effectively a final exam?
It is not. It does not replace final exams. In fact, we are not certain that we will have those scores back while the student is still within the building. So we are not envisioning their scores on their PARC tests to go into their grade at all at this time.
Well,
So
what if
much
those
like the
kids-
OGT, we get those after the school year is over, so it does not factor into grades.
Like my son has taken algebra, algebra 2, and geometry already as a freshman. When would he take those tests?
I would have him visit his guidance counselor because he is the class of 2018 and beyond. He is going to need the points for those to factor into that 18-point culmination.
Well, that's my point. When would he take those tests, which he's already completed half of those course offerings?
Well, what is he currently taking?
Algebra 2?
So he'll take the Algebra 2 test this year. We can also give him another test at the same time period. So we have a window where we'll be testing. So it's not during a certain 9 to noon on one day, but rather a window so if he feels prepared
So he's
and
gotta take
comfortable
all
enough, he
three
can
of
take more than
those.
one at a time.
He's got to take all 3 of them, though, is my point.
Yes, between now and graduation. So what we would need to talk to him with the guidance counselor, find out when he would be comfortable to be able to do that.
There's quite a few.
Yes.
Is,
There's a lot of them.
Well, we definitely need him to take the course they're currently enrolled in.
does any of the board members have any questions?
The document looks rather similar to last year's version. Is it easy? Can you,
Rise and shine.
Sorry. Could I get a red line? Cliff notes. I just want to see what you changed, because I'm not gonna, is that possible? Is that something easy to share? I just want to see.
How do you feel about multiple emails with changes?
I'll come pick one up. I mean, oh, you.
I don't have a red line, but I have several emails that have gone back and forth between the graphics company and us with, for instance, page 28, course number 2202, please change this.
That would be great without
You're
doing too much,
comfortable with that?
without doing too much work. I just want to go to the place so I can get visual for it.
Yeah, that's great.
A lot of the big changes came within the first 13 pages,
Yeah.
which is the guidance intro section. And then there's some other changes throughout, a lot of little ones. We renumbered our international languages as far as course numbers, so it flows more in line. Physics has always been an honors level taught class. We now it's labeled as honors physics, so there's some little things that maybe you won't pick up on, but we have recommended all those things.
I'm just want to scan it and see. The other question, a lot of nice offerings. So I feel, I don't want to be a Paris to Congress in any way, shape, or form, but usually when you fiscally, is there any fiscal impact to our?
Now, I warned you to, he'd ask that.
Well, we're talking. Well, I love the idea of, trust me, we've been pushing for honors forever. And this is an amazing new diversity of courses, I think, some of these things that you're adding. So does that mean we have teachers currently qualified to teach them?
Yes.
Oh,
So,
that's nice.
for example, if we have 100 freshmen come in, or 500 freshmen, they have to take physical science. So whether they take an honors level or a CP level or a regular level science, you're just, instead of having 2 offerings, we have 3 offerings now what it takes. You're still serving the same amount of students. One where you might get into, and as far as the agreement between the Career Center as being a satellite, is right now our Project Leadway teachers here for 3 periods. If we can increase those offerings, then that would be one that we would have them here all day. Now, as far as financial impact, well, I understand they pick up all that. So there is no financial impact, but we'll have them here all day.
So we're able to add all these offerings with our current staff level, and our staff's able to absorb the newer offerings. Is that correct?
We do have 50 more students coming in than what are graduating.
Okay.
So that's going to play into staffing with those extras coming in, a larger class coming in. We have 480 coming in.
Versus 430.
Yes.
That's the same question, Mr. Chairman. I had to tell them three.
Well, just because it's in our coming down the line, I just wanted to.
There's just so much change. Wow, this is a lot at once.
Mr. Martin, the honors physical science, are those students that would be going into that class, that like freshmen that in the past perhaps would have bypassed physical science and gone directly into biology?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Friedman?
Your course weighting. Is the PSEO program involved in that course weighting?
That's a good question, and it's somewhat hard to answer right now. We do have a meeting on January 6th up in Dayton to find out more specifics with weighting. Currently, the way we're weighting PSEO this year is if a student gains an A in a course, they get 100 on the report card. If they get a B, they get an 89 on the report card, because the colleges do not report percentage grading. We have been informed via draft mode from the state that all PSEO, now College Credit Plus classes, will carry a 10% or a 10-point weight. That is currently in draft from the state.
So they basically be treated the same as an AP class?
Yes.
That's correct.
Now, which is more rigorous, an honors or a CP?
Honors. And an AP would be more rigorous than an honors. The CP, honors, AP. Yes.
Are the requirements to get into these classes going to change since now we have CP, honors, and AP? Like right now, to get into honors English, you have to have, you submit a portfolio, and there's different steps to get into the different classes.
Yes, there are prerequisites. Those are still in play for your honors physical science and your honors biology, which is all laid out in here. So,
It is laid out.
yes, absolutely. But have to have honors biology, you have to have an 85% or higher in honors physical science, or whatever it may be. So, yeah. So that's all that is the same. Those requirements have been set just like they have been in years past for those courses, like any other course.
We also have a gifted component there, whereby if a student is identified gifted, they will have an automatic entrance into the program.
Okay, that was my question.
Yes.
So how do people know this?
all students will be getting a letter prior to the scheduling process that have qualified for a WEP in past years, written education plan for gifted children. And within that letter, it will state, for instance, your child's name and what he is qualified for, in what areas he is gifted. And then there'll be a list of courses that align with the gifted area that he can sign up for. And then you as a parent will send that letter back to us, letting us know, for instance, well, I would like my child in honors science, but not honors English. So you know your child well, you know what you can handle. The English class will have a writing prompt rather than a portfolio, so the youngsters will come in an afternoon in May. We'll give several weeks' notice on that. And then the students will sit with the English department, and they will be given writing prompts and write on the spot, as well as to fill out an application so the teacher can have some information about the English.
But if they're gifted, they automatically get in.
They still participate in the writing
They still-
prompt.
Yes.
So
And if-
they just also will do the.
Correct, and if there's a
Yes.
reading component, a lot of times the reading component, if it's a novel, they study that novel at the beginning or during the year. So if they don't complete it before the year starts, they would really be starting behind. So it's going to be recommended that they still participate in that, but it won't be something that's part of the requirement.
And then if the student wants out, the student can't opt out of that without a parent signature.
Correct.
There's a couple meetings ago, a couple weeks ago, Mr. Petrie brought up our gifted score, or gifted rating. These shifts here, these recommendations, try to pick up and address any of that.
That's the goal. We're hoping to address that.
What it is, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. That's why, not just, we're just hoping that the ribbon will address all kids.
Yeah.
The gifted students are part of that, but we have all ranges of students that take those classes. You look at an AP class, we have very, very high achievers taking AP, as well as other students who some would consider a very, very good student, but not maybe a great student. So it will serve anybody. But that's the goal that will allow us to get our higher level winners as well to grow that one year.
Part of the indicator is they have to be in an honors or AP. And then 80% of the kids who are gifted have to be advanced, 10% accelerated, and 10% proficient, correct?
Correct.
So if they opt out to go to a CP course, which is an honors or AP, their parent has to sign them, then that teacher who is in CP is responsible for making sure that gifted kid scores at that advanced or accelerated level. So it's a very stiff requirement placed on high school. Very.
So this College Credit Plus, these offerings, I don't know if I would be excited in some of these offerings. Doesn't mean it's just me. Maybe ethics, I'd be okay with. But, well, I guess, how did we do last year? And I think that we had 3 classes last year?
Yeah, we
Was it?
were given a list
Yeah.
from
Sinclair,
Sinclair,
yeah.
they're our partner. And on that list, we take that list and we look at what we're currently offering within our high school with our staff. And we cross off all those courses that we're already offering. So we have a very rich offering here. So it precludes a lot of our students from taking, for instance, world history at the college level. So that would be one that we cross off. U.S. history at the college level, crossed off. So we're only offering classes online that we don't currently staff here. Now, it's a whole different ballgame if the youngster decides to go to the college. So they have a full offering of whatever the college has within their program of studies for the student to take. So if they leave our site and they go to the college, they can sign up for anything at the college level. I believe it's with the exception of religious studies.
So with the College Credit Plus now, if you're familiar with the term PSEO, we still do the PSEO thing. It's just now under the College Credit Plus umbrella. If you're doing dual credit, we still do dual credit, and that's under the College Credit Plus thing. And now we have these new online options that's also under the College Credit Plus.
Yes, and in your
So-
program of studies, you'll see on page 12, I'm sorry, page 11 and 12, There are college credit plus pathways that all high schools in the state of Ohio are required to have a partnership with Area College. So our partnership is with Sinclair, and they have given us it has to be a minimum 15 hours and a minimum 30 hours. So we've posted a 16-hour program with our partnership with Sinclair, as well as a 33-hour program. So that's all due through College Credit Plus. And that's a pathways for a student to either have a semester of college credit before high school or a year of college credit.
So this could be ever changing too. I mean, this is brand new. I mean, I can remember we got a letter, I want to say end of October, stating that PSO was changing the college credit and they're going to start having meetings about that. And so we immediately going, so we're only 2 months into this. There's no question that things will probably change.
The college credit plus still.
I just wanted to make sure that folks knew that if they're in dual credit now, we're still doing dual credit.
Oh,
We are,
yeah.
It's just got a different name.
Yes.
If you were in PSEO, it's just got a different name.
Correct.
And now we have some online offerings.
So we're not taking anything old.
And you'll have meetings with parents before the kids sign up.
Yeah, if that's in February. February is, what's technically February?
One more quick question. So going back to where you said that they would get a letter, if your child's been identified as gifted, let's say that. And so next year they're going to be in pre-cal. So you're offering AP pre-cal, you're offering honors and CP. Would they automatically get all of those listed and they choose the one they want, or do they qualify if they're gifted for just the honors or for the AP?
Well, with regard to pre-cal, we're looking at a CP pre-cal and an honors pre-cal. So we don't have an AP level at that point, so what our offering
What
would
about
be
for
for
the
that?
ones that do? For the ones that do offer that, for the ones that offer an AP or an honors or a CP, which one does the gifted student automatically follow?
The highest level offered. So if there is an AP, they qualify for the AP. If it's honors and there isn't an AP yet, it will be honors. So typically our 9th and 10th would be the honors level, then the 11th and 12th, you can see a lot more AP offerings. Sir?
It's been bandied around, we've got about 40% gifted population. If that number is true, then you've got about, 200 and some kids in like a freshman class that are registered as gifted. And I know they're not all going to want to take all the AP classes available, but how are you going to handle that if you're giving away exemptions to everybody? That's 200 and some kids.
Well, we already have an override process for our scheduling purposes to where with recommendations that parents can override. If they're recommended for CP, but they say, I think my child, they want to, and I feel they're ready to take an honors level course, they can override that. So we're used to that process. The other thing to keep in mind too with the gifted student, I mean, we do have a high number, but that could be 100 of those kids that are coming in next year. If we say we have 200 freshmen coming in next year that are gifted, 100 of them could be gifted in one area. 50 of them could be gifted in 3 areas. So that number is large, but it's also then goes a step further as far as in how many areas are they gifted in. So that's something we're going to have to look at as far as handling it. But as far as the override process and opting in or opting out, that's something that we have dealt with within the guidance office for years.
Well, my question was, do we have enough flexibility and capacity if they all want to take the upper level classes to get all those kids accommodated?
Yes. We have the staffing to be able to do that.
So for instance, we know that we have 480 students that are going to take English 1. Some of them will be in English 1, some will be in CP English 1, some of them will be in Honors 1. But we know that we need 480 seats of English 1. So how we staff it is where the change is as opposed to how many seats we need.
And just a follow-up question. How many kids did you have in PSEO last year?
I can better tell you this year, we're right around 70. Last year we were low 60s. For dual enrollment here with online, we're this year right around 60. Last year right around 30 because it was only one semester last year. So the numbers are staying rather consistent.
Well, one girl that played volleyball, she went to Ohio State. She went to Ohio State with 15 credit hours under her belt.
So, great.
Which after paying for a semester of college, I know how much that's worth.
Mm-hmm.
Depends on where you go.
That was the goal.
Dr. Maloney has a question.
Just an observation. I like the idea of all the honors classes. It seems like that this is going to have a dramatic effect on student grades and therefore class rank and items such as National Honor Society eligibility. Anything which has an honors grade GPA hooked to it, this is going to have a dramatic effect on that. I'm sorry?
What does that mean?
Well, what it means is that because these grades have a 5% weight, that's going to change. That's going to change class rank a good deal, in the sense that right now there's the number of classes that have honors classes, AP and so forth, that have the weight is relatively small, and we're going to more than double the number of students who are going to be getting a weight.
Meaning their grade is higher than 100.
True, that's true. And therefore, you're going to see major shifts in class rank because of the weighting system.
We're not going to retroactively apply these though, right? It's just
Here forward.
going forward, right?
Right.
So what you're saying, Dr. Malone, is that the ranking will be different in the future than it has been in the past because of this way.
We're going to see student GPAs be higher. And I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's going to be higher because of the weight that's going to go into it.
So dramatic like that. It's a bad thing.
Neither. I'm just saying it's just, by dramatic, I'm talking about a significant change.
Okay, that's right. You say dramatic.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I was just clarifying.
Yeah.
Well, it's great. I mean, to me, this increases rigor, but, like what Mr. Weedon said, at first blush, I looked at it and thought, how in the world, we're gonna have to add staff to be able to accommodate this, but in essence, it's gonna increase the rigor for all these students, so they're gonna be in higher advanced class. I'm eager to see this, so you guys have done an outstanding job, tell the staff they have as well. You only had 6 weeks to change this, because we just found out about it 7 weeks ago. So, thank you for getting it done.
Yeah, thank you.
It'd be great if we get it.
To kind of put it in perspective with what you talked about, if you look at the old program of studies, we had 6 pages, 5.5 pages worth of international language offerings in years past. And that never affected our staff one way or the other because you have so many offerings. A lot of times there's not enough students that sign up to take that class to carry the class. So, that just because we're offering it doesn't mean it's something that we'll have. So,
Thank you both. Nice presentation.
Great job.
Great job. Item 10.3, Boyd.
I want to let the board know that it's time for our annual tax budget to be adopted. It must be filed by January 15th, 2015, to the budget commission in Warren County, which is not the, I see it on the page, given the age meeting. This is basically our asking documents where we spell out all of our anticipated revenue and expenses in all funds, whereas for 5 years, it's general fund, the tax budget is all funds. And then we will submit that to Warren County, the budget commission, and then they'll certify as to how much they believe that we're going to get in total in taxes from based on fund audits. So that'll be going up here in They submitted one out there actually, just so you guys know, it's out there for you guys to look at, but because it's based on actual numbers, the population was December 30th and January 1st, and then we'll adjust the numbers, and then that way we can submit the one that will be the actual numbers.
So this is not tied directly into the 5-year forecast that was just approved, is it?
Yes, it is tied to the forecast, because what I do is I pull in all of our anticipated revenues and expenditures based off of what we anticipate spending and receiving.
Current year?
For the current fiscal year and the half of the next fiscal year, because they run by calendar year, so our taxes will be the second half of this year and the first half of next year, so they ask for this fiscal year and the first half of next fiscal year. So you can see the dates on there when I typed in my date, I put the next fiscal year, so I'm going to go in there and change that date, so it's giving me the right information. I've already started to do that, but, so it's not an actual, those aren't the actual numbers yet. But yes,
18.4.
During budget finance, I think about a month and a half, maybe 2 months ago, we had a presentation for funds for schools. And this is a system that we currently use EasyPay, and I believe we've been using EasyPay since 2005. And this would replace EasyPay, and it does a lot more things. You can pay a lot more things with EasyPay, so it'll be a lot more convenient for parents. They can pay. And we have to structure it because we did ask these questions during budget finance. There's a way for us to kind of tie in all activities where you could pay, they could log into one site and they could sign in under a login and pay their youth football fees or baseball fees. It's one system, but it would be one login, they would be able to pay all of their fees throughout the district. So many types. And then it would go in, those would be linked to the proper bank accounts for those different funds. And currently we pay about $10,000 a year to EasyPay just for our site license and on the ability to use their software. With this new company, we have there's no fees whatsoever as far as that. My main question to ask you guys was the pricing. For EasyPay right now, we charge the parents $1 fee. So whenever they pay a fee online, it's $1. But then the district pays 2.49% of the revenue, the total revenue that's received. So, for instance, last year we paid close to $29,000 in fees. So with this new company, we have a similar options in order for us to pay. So we could either charge the $1. They have the option where it would be a flat $2.45 convenience fee for the parents, no matter how. That one is per $100, so every $100 would be $2.45. And then there would be no cost to the district. It would just be convenience fees for parents if they were to have it convenience fees as well. And we also have a shared option where the parent would be charged a flat fee of $2.25, and then the district would have a 2% on the total revenue. So there's like some different options, but I kind of wanted to get your feedback on how you felt about the way I really like this new system. It does a lot more things. One of the main things that I really liked about it was the fact that people can go on and pay a payment plan without having to contact the school and going through phone calls and all those things. They can actually log right online and set up a payment plan online through the system, and it then notifies the school of the payment plan. It keeps track, and you can print out reports to see if they're on schedule and they're paying on schedule. And I think it just helps a lot in that aspect too, because we're having a lot of taking a lot of time to call and making arrangements. Plus, sometimes when you have to make those arrangements, it's not always fun to call and you have to make stuff. So this would give the ability for the parents to at home and their meeting was gone and so on. So I was just trying to get feedback on how you felt if we should continue to just do the $1 convenience fee, or if we should pass that the $2.49 per $100 on to parents, or we should continue to do some shared costs where we pay 2% of the total revenue and they pay a flat $2.49. So I'm just kind of wanted to share the speakers on that. Because it is costly. I mean, we'll already be saving about $10,000 a year just in not having to face the site license fees and the annual listing fees. So that'll save us $10,000 a year. But then we have the opportunity to save up to $30,000 additional dollars a year if we pass the fee on to parents, and then also that also is putting that fee on to them as well. So that could be
If the system went away, what would you do to collect all those fees? What would you do?
they would be able to accept checks with cash, and they have to some of the riches in on the it is a convenience. I know, for instance, say for the beginning challenge, when you can go on right now and easy pay with money. Well, I have that system where my kids go to school and it doesn't go on to the next day. Well, this system will go on right away. And then there's a few other systems that also go on right away. It's just a convenience.
So we're processing over $1 million students for fees and stuff. more than,
Oh, it's a lot.
I don't know if I have an answer, but I have some questions that might lead you to an answer. Do you want more people on the system, or do you care? I mean, if you want more people, I don't know how many are not on it. It sounds like the vast majority are on it. But do you want more on it, or do you want fewer on it? It sounds like if we could have everybody on it, that might be a good thing. And so if you want to encourage people to get on it, that might influence what the arrangements are. And maybe you would induce a few more people on there. I don't know that I have any other guidance for you with that. As far as what the fees are, and that, I mean, that's, I don't know, because I don't know what the effect of changing that fee structure would be, since I don't know how many people are using it and stuff. So.
I see a lot of traffic, but it is a community system there. I know our student system, we used to have the dog community as well, and then we went these past several places that we did to the communities to use for that, so you have to pay a fee, so it really, but that keeps us, $2.50. Isn't that much money in reality, so it didn't probably affect them that much, but it really didn't slow the process down. It's just, I'm more worried that I'll go ahead and submit and sign up with this new company and get it all switched, and then I don't want to solely make a decision that says, okay, we're just gonna pass all the fees on and keep it the way it is, and then all of a sudden, then a bunch of days, I don't want that, for sure. I just kind of wanted to see what would be best for everybody.
To me, it sounds like whatever the decision is, we ought to do to try to encourage as many people to use it as we can. So I guess I would be reluctant to increase the fees, because that might discourage, that might push people the other way, but you're in a better position to judge that.
So when it comes time to run a report on who's paid, who hadn't, who's on a payment plan, is there a way that you're gonna be able to report this, could run one report to show us where we stand?
Because right now we're paying 2.49% of our total revenue, and on this one, we don't be paying 2% if we left it the same, and with the dollar fee, we would only pay 2% of that. So we're still being saved, but.
So the question is, I understand what you're saying, you really look at it, is there a better use for $30,000 or $40,000 for the district to spend on children? Or, what I mean? So, I mean, $5 for an individual, not minimum, but I don't know, that makes a bigger deal when you deal with the volume. If it's $30,000 or $40,000. So it's $25 for them. And just so conceptually, it's $2.45 a year. But that's a whole different issue.
The impact is, if fewer people do it, what's the impact on your organization? I don't know. Yeah.
Everybody's not gonna like it, but like I said, my thing would be for a year, times 5. it was $150,000 over 5 years, but we have a better use for that. You know how many times I ran my daughter's lunch bag up here to the high school because she forgot a ginger price tag. So, you know, if I had to go on and it cost me $2 to do it, I would have done that. But just to keep me from, so.
And keep in mind, we're now paying for project books, which is about $30,000. So that's another $150,000 over 5 years.
So versus $3. Right. Anybody else have anything?
Well, I would say that, you know, because it does add up, and that's, you made a good point there, Charles. I mean, collectively, $30,000 a year is almost the salary of being a teacher.
Right.
And over 5 years, $150,000 is substantial. And, so I guess my preference would be just go ahead and about passing it on versus
You're gonna go real quick, Bill.
That's why I wanted
I don't think it's gonna be.
Bring it for a vote, that's how we decide.
Have you tried to renegotiate with Easy Pay? I mean,
they're pretty solid across the board. I tried that at my previous district, but it didn't really get us anywhere, so we ended up switching to pay for it.
Oh, it's worth a shot.
I'm sure they're wonderful. I mean, I had no problem with it. It's great.
I did.
Well, they're trying to mesh this system with the system that Mr. Lewis brought, to where it makes it even more.
They actually are in the process of that. They did say a lot of people are coming on with that final form, so they're trying to get a partnership between the two so that we can actually further bring those items in. With the norms and stuff in, so it'll be a one central hub.
Not to minimize the convenience to parents that can use this, but as Mr. Attorney asked, wasn't there to use, then what do we do? Well, then you have to collect everything manually. So what would be the additional cost to the district? They have to process all this by hand. Would it increase someone's, wages because they have to spend extra time running somewhere? You have security to make sure that this money gets to the bank. So you can't just discount the convenience to the district either.
Right, we actually do already currently have a courier that goes to each building each day, picks up all of the money and takes it to the bank, but it definitely would be more time for the staff in the buildings having to collect those checks and write deposit slips out and put them in deposit bags and stuff. I guess, I mean, that's why I kind of want to see how it would go, because I know from my experience at my previous district, it didn't slow down. So it's sort of proof of fact, I think the convenience was worth it to the parents, but at the same time, that's definitely, I want to make sure that it's, agreed upon. I wouldn't want to ever, suggest a change if there's, adverse effects.
There's a small part that it's not a convenience matter. We have first graders that I can't send money to school for them to buy their lunch, so I don't have a choice. I have to use it. So if you're passing those fees on to me, I don't have a choice. It's not actually fair.
You can send a check in to the office or, there's actually.
But there's no guarantee it gets there. I checked those on my phone, my son's backpack, so you can't guarantee first graders to deliver
I know,
lunch.
I have fours, and I understand, I'm delivered my own lunch pack,
Drop off.
Okay.
Right. Right.
Okay.
As a parent, I'd rather see it like as a one-time fee, like in our student fees, than as a every time, if there's any way you can work that out.
Have you quantified kind of what the different scenarios would look like financially?
I can do that.
I mean, because I think that makes a lot of sense. If you're charging $3 per student as part of the student fees, and that covers what you think you're gonna need for the year, then again, I would rather do that than, a $1, because with Easy Pay, I get a flag on one kid, I pay that, I get my $1 fee, and then 2 weeks later, I get a flag on another low balance on another kid. You know, I would rather just pay my, you know, $5 at the beginning of the year, and then just not be charged every transaction if you have multiple kids in the district.
I think it's a good idea. It would be, you have to kind of quantify how many times every family gets on and how, and then base a fee off of that, and you have to try to monitor whether they got on board, whether they thought they were, and I mean, it might be a little difficult to come up with a fee based on not really being sure how many times a year. If you get on every Friday and pay $20 on your child's lunch account.
But you have a transaction record with Easy Pay. I mean, just based
Right,
on the
but it's not
transaction.
based off of per person. It's, now you guys do have that ability. Ours is based off of what we got in this day, every day. And then it's in a summary at the end of the month of everything you got in for the month, but it's not listed out by so-and-so made 4 transactions, this person made 4.
Right.
It's not, it's a compilation.
But as a district, do they tell you how many transactions you have per day? Because that's all you need.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
that's what,
it's-
that, if you run the numbers on that, based on your $1 versus
Divided by
your,
however many students and then times by.
it gives you ballpark.
Yeah, we could get a ballpark. for sure.
And add 20%.
With that. That's good, you know, we can do that.
Good. And 5, board meeting dates.
Correct. We have provided a calendar for board meeting, possible board meeting dates next year, and we're thinking 1 a month. If we ever need to add, we can. It would have to be a special board meeting. We've done those in the past. We can do a special board meeting and it would be for specific items, kind of like the DA thing. But right now, we've gotten to where a lot of processes now are in place. We still have more to put into place. But for the most part, we're getting to where we might have a little bit longer of a board meeting, but only need 1 a month. And having those on Thursday night would be beneficial. Those of us that have to get up pretty early, not that you guys don't, but it would be helpful if we could have them on Thursday night. So we have provided some dates for you that at our next normal board meeting, which would be the organizational meeting, we'll have to adopt that calendar. I wanted to discuss it with you tonight, see if that's okay.
So we've had 2 board meetings this month. We've been here going on 2 hours. We're probably gonna be here another 2 hours, maybe 3. I don't see how we do 1 board meeting a month, not spend 5 hours a week.
We can play by ear and see how it goes. Some of our board meetings get short, others are long.
I do understand what he's saying. It just, I don't know about anyone else, but I have the saturation point that after a certain point in time, I just don't think that we give our best to items that are 3 and 4 hours into the agenda. And if we go with this, I think we have to make a commitment that somehow, some way, we're going to shorten board meetings. Because it's just, with the length of them now, I think we need to look and see how we can shorten them now with 2 meetings a month. To go with 1 and the thought of them going longer, I just don't think it's fair to the items and the people that have to wait so long and the items that we discussed 3 and 4 hours into a board meeting. So, not that I'm opposed to 1 meeting a month, but I don't like the length. I don't think we're effective.
It's short. You reasonable in terms of going through, everyone expresses their opinion, and then we vote. There are some different items.
But I think in that example, if we all took our 10 minutes, it'd be 50 minutes on 1 item, and we'd still be on the board. I think we have 2 things. Well, I've been paying attention to board meetings since 2010, and not been short. I rephrase, the business meetings have often been short, and actually our business meetings are probably a little longer than some of the past. But this is the piece where we're supposed to be allowed to talk in the sunshine, deliberate, have debate, get direction, do all that stuff. And that's where we should be here so they can hear us. So and I agree, and we try reversing it, doesn't work. It's kind of where we reverse it, because the action items get, other issues. I just don't see how you do it in 1 meeting. 1 meeting for me next year might be a little bit tough. Because my schedule's gonna be crazy. I don't know, I can schedule it, but if you all of a sudden start throwing special meetings and all this stuff, you're going to lose me.
Would you rather have 2? Most of the feedback I got was, if we can go with one, let's go with one.
Well, let me ask
We
you
can do
this,
two, we can do two.
can we agree to set a time limit and say that if a meeting goes past 2 hours, then we schedule a second meeting then?
I'd rather go,
Something like that, I mean.
I'd rather go the reverse, put the meetings on everybody's calendar. If you don't think you won't,
You can't.
cancel it. And if you want to have another one, then please do it, but I'm just telling you, I don't have 12 months of calendar meetings next month. It's going to be very difficult for me to participate. Now, that might be a good thing for some. I would like to be here in special meetings. You're going to call me 2 days before, and I'm going to be in Chapiko, and I'm not going to be wherever. So I guess, I hear you, Dr. Malone. I've been sitting through them. Trust me, we had meetings till 1 and 2 in the morning before I can't function even. I got up 6:30 this morning, so I hear you.
I think consensus probably would be that we start two meetings.
Yeah, if you want to try something different, like make one a work session and the other a business meeting, maybe that's a good way to divide it up. I am going to have a conflict with Thursdays, June through October. So Tuesday, Thursday.
Well, that would be interesting if you could work that out, because then you would be able to bring in business to us for one business meeting and move everything beforehand. Still get a deliberation meeting and a business meeting in theory. In theory, it should.
I like that.
In theory, it should, I mean, the business meeting might be 3 hours. But the business meeting might be 30 hours.
Yep, no, I don't like that.
We didn't try that before.
You did try it?
Did not. Tried reversing and stuff, and it was.
No, I like that. The business part of it probably goes pretty quick.
It should, if we've already talked about
And
it.
if we really, then we would really have a work session, which we would all anticipate, but that'd be okay. Yeah, I
Maybe
like
there's a
it.
limit on that too. You know?
The rest has changed the way that we do those, that's bylaw. So the board's going to have to approve, and we'll have to approve the agenda. Somewhat been down that road, so. Basically, if you're wanting to do a work session, one meeting, and a business session the next meeting. Yeah, you have to give it there.
We have to have four of us agree.
Right.
I don't know if we have to change the bylaws formally if we want to try it out and see if it works. We just have to make sure 4 of us agree.
I think the policy with the board is where you leave the agenda as the guideline. Right now, how it's written is part of the policy.
I think what Jim's saying, well, I hear what you're saying, I think Jim's saying, if you want to give it a shot, we do it, put it on the agenda, we vote on it, give a super majority.
I think it's great.
We could vote on a rule change without changing the bylaws.
So we could vote on that on the meeting on the 8th.
Good.
I mean, or on
18th, go ahead.
whenever that is.
We can add it to that.
Well, can you? And that's the problem with special meetings.
24 hours.
Because once you do that, you're only supposed to talk about that. So if you decide to go the other route,
You can't do it. So we'll work something out.
Well, you can do
We'll
it
send
on,
out to
you can do it,
individual feedback.
you can do it on the 8th.
We go to your
No, you
organization.
don't. Oh, oh.
We made it all to your organization.
Yeah, okay, we can do it then. Is there a problem with that?
We can copy out there if you want to get your individual feedback.
Okay.
and we're just taking a vote, we're not changing the bylaws. But we're talking the same, we're just,
That's what I'm suggesting, is that we just write a rule that says, for X period of time.
That's right.
They're your policies. You can do about what you want.
That's right. There's nobody going to come arrest us. We can't, but you can.
There's a difference.
Okay.
All right, so
All right. So, 10.6 committee representative.
yes, we've listed all the committees that we have. And at the organizational meeting, the new board president will have to basically kind of just appoint people to these like you did last year. And I wanted to have passed out to you the committees that you're already on, so you can somewhat be thinking about those. I think last year what we did was in the second meeting, Mr. Anderson, the board president, appointed people to these committees, and we talked about it in the first committee. I know people's work travels change. know Ron's back working pretty much full-time. David's all over the planet all the time, and working all the time too, so. I just wanted you guys to see what you were on, so that might expedite that process. Hopefully.
10.7, discussion of options of reducing crowding at Dennis at 5 Points Elementary School.
Yes. What I want to do is pass out some note cards. If you're the type of person that doesn't like to ask questions during the board meeting, we truly want your feedback, and I will share that with the board. So you can write down whatever question you have. And if you could, when you leave, just lay them on the counter or give them to me, and we'll make sure to go through these, process these, and get some answers out of people.
I'll speak up, don't worry.
Okay. Chair. What we'd like to discuss tonight, first and foremost, I did want to clarify, there's nothing in this plan rips or reduces teachers. One of the options that we have, currently we have 18 first grade teachers. When we bring them together naturally, you typically don't need as many teachers. So we'll need either 16 or 17 because now they're at one location. The benefit of that is we will be able to use the 1 or 2 teachers to deal with the actual issue, which is overcrowding at 5 points. So bringing the two together there is a savings and a real benefit there. It's not going to increase class size at all. What we're running into, the economy has boomed out in the area on 48 where all the housing industries are, and also in Stone Ridge area. They're building houses again, a lot of houses out in that area. The Dennis area is not seeing this at all. 5 Points, on the other hand, has gotten to the point of where we can't add a classroom there. We have classrooms in the 5th grade there, in the 4th grade, they've hit 29, some of them 30. Where I've actually talked to the principal about we may have to add an aide just to help out with the overflow. We can't get into that situation again next year. We're predicting another 50 kids coming into that building, might be as high as 70 to 80. So we are going to run into an issue of 5 Points where we do not have enough classrooms. Now, what we tried to do for the board tonight, and we'd like all of your feedback, because I know the board is very concerned about your comments as well, is we've provided an array of options. We're going to have a couple, clearly, financially, that do work. And I will say it out loud. We are working on one budget. We don't have any type of special indicators in there for PI improvement or whatever. It's all one pot. And within that pot, we have to be able to support our instructional initiatives and support our teachers financially. We have 35 to 40% of our staff that's brand new. If we get back to the point where we were years ago of base freezes, no raises, we are going to lose staff fast. So we're not in a position now not to financially support teachers. So I just wanted to go ahead and put that out there because I have had some people say, well, you're doing this and that to support teachers. I am, because we have to. The best thing you can have in a classroom is a good teacher. You can buy books all day long, but you got to have someone that knows how to teach out those books. So I wanted to go ahead and put that out there. What are the options? First and foremost, redistricting. If you've ever been, John and I both have worked in districts that redistrict. I've worked in districts to where every year, and I know John has too, we've discussed that there'll be streets that even in August, the parents don't know which school their kids are going to go to. It is just terrible customer relations. And in a place like Springboro, that's not the norm. If I were a parent here and I didn't know year to year where my son was going to be school after he's built relationships with his friends, I'd have a real problem with that. I personally don't want to get into that situation. And what's funny is, 10 years ago we went through, I opened one of these buildings. Sandy Ray said over and over and over, do not set these buildings boundaries up like this. You're going to run into this issue. 30 minutes before the meeting day, she stopped me, Mom, having fun yet? So I looked at her, I said, only you would come and do that to me. So nonetheless, we saw this coming down the road. Another option is to open Jonathan Wright, and we're going to break these down. We're giving you the whole compartment Another is to maintain the current situation and hope for the best, and quite frankly, we're hoping for a mess, not the best, if we do that. Put another grade level at Springboro Intermediate, use the Educare building, or move all of the first graders to Clear Creek, or move just the 5 Point students. Now, another option board that we don't have on here that has been brought to me a lot is why can't we just put modular units at 5 Points? That is an option. The difference is with that land, because John and I have already been out there, Mr. Pinnell, he's our business manager, I apologize, I introduced him. And of course, our wonderful principal, Ms. Johnson. The land, you need a very flat piece of land, and it can't have drainage to some extent that you're setting it on top of. Okay, when you go out to 5 Points, you'll notice a lot of drainage up around that building. Plus, we would have to set the building far away, the modular unit far away from the building. Our vision here is to have an enclosed walkway through this building. I was a principal of an early childhood school and dealing with first graders, and every single time they have to go to specials or they're going to go to reading intervention or what, you can't, okay, everyone put your coats on. That doesn't work with 5 years old. It just doesn't work with 5-year-old kids. So we're trying to set this up at Clear Creek, and we're working with the zoning commission to set it as close to Clear Creek as possible so that we can build a constructed area to where the kids will be able to walk out there freely, just like they're walking in the classroom to go to the restroom. So, and I know that was the concern of the teachers. They envisioned we're going to have the modular unit way out the back. Not what we're wanting to do. Also, so what are the objectives here? Clearly, to address the overcrowding issue, we do want to develop an environment that reduces our overhead costs. And you'll see there's a lot of costs associated with some of these other options. And lastly, and most important to me, is that we develop an environment that accelerates student achievement. Springboro has never had a true early learning center. They're awesome to have a true early learning center. When you have first grade students in a building where there's testing drives everything. When you pull those kids out and you put them into a building where it's 3 years old through 6-year-olds, it's a developmental appropriate environment, and they develop instruction around that. It's unbelievable the things that the kids can do and learn from one another when they're in that type of environment. And I tell you, of the parents who have come to me, every parent has said to me, my kid likes the idea of staying in one building at once. Having them all there reduces transition. You have 4 or 5-year-old kids on buses. We're able to take them to the same spot. Plus, now it's just preschool, kindergarten, and first on a bus together instead of 5th graders and 4th graders and 3rd graders on there as well. And we don't have any bad kids in Springboro, but we have some kids that like to have a good time on the bus every once in a while, no doubt about it. So that is a real benefit of that. So as we explore alternative options, number one, why not redistrict? There's multiple ways to redistrict, first and foremost. It's going to be a disruption to a family, because if we don't redistrict the entire district at once and we just do a couple grades, you might run into having a child at Dennis and a child at 5 Points. It's just not a good situation for parents who pick their kids up from school or have to drop them off or press to get to work. It just doesn't work for an active family, period. So you really either have to do all or nothing. And when you get into doing all, it is a comprehensive plan. Have many of you been involved with the redistricting process? Perhaps another district. It's tough. It's very tough. Personally, I don't think we're ready for that with a lot of the transitions we're going through, especially with the staff. But nonetheless, that is an absolute option if that is something that you're interested in. Some of the situations, though, as we get into that, the process will have to be revisited every single year. It's not something you can do one time and just hope it works for a while. It's going to have to be revisited. In addition, we will see increased transportation costs. And I have to tell you, the most eye-opening thing through this whole process has been the cost of transportation. Unbelievable expense to put a bus on the road and to put a staff member behind that wheel. Big time expensive.
So why not renovate Jonathan Wright Elementary and provide that as an option? First, it would require additional staffing. You would need at least half an administrator. You need an office person. You need 1.5 custodial folks. So, you know, that is another $160,000 a year that it would cost over and above if we combined those with any other location where we put the other the other first graders. Renovation costs, minimum of $740,498, which includes a roof, HVAC issues, plumbing, electrical issues, painting, cleaning. We need new boards, new projectors, new networking, including wireless. The backbone over there is all 10 years old. I mean, it hasn't been a school in quite a while, so everything is older there. We need a lot more furniture than we would need in some other locations. So that altogether, minimum is $740,000. Minimum. Transportation costs, we need 8 additional buses with 8 additional drivers and 1 additional aide. And I said this earlier, and somebody yelled at me about it, but that's a very difficult school to get in and out of traffic-wise. I know that the staff that was here earlier told me I was nuts, but when I've just seen the little bit of trying to get people in and out of school, it's a rough place. It's a great neighborhood school. It's a great school to walk to, but it's not a great school to have 12 buses in and a whole bunch of parent drop-offs. So that's the biggest thing there. In the past, there have been air quality issues. Those were pretty much resolved. We've got some testing going on just to make sure they're still resolved. But the roof we've been patching it quite a bit. There's a church that leases that building that pays $6,000 a month to be there, which pretty much that definitely covers all the utility costs and then the general upkeep of the building. So we're not losing any money on the building, but and this is where I get into a soapbox, you'll beat me later. But basically what I'm going to recommend us to pursue in the future is, if we choose not to, I know he's stepping away, if we choose not to open the building as a school now, I recommend that we look at the possibility of selling the building and getting out of it, because it's sat for 8 years or so already without being a school. And if we pass up this chance, there really is not a reason for us to hang on to the building. We either need to sell the building, and you know, remember, we'd have to offer it to any community or college prep boarding schools within our school boundaries at the fair market value, which the auditor's website has that at $2.792 million. And if there are none, then we'd have to sell it at a public auction. And I have to note, because I've had experience with this, you'll never get that $2.8 million for that building. Basically, the land value is about $300,000. That's pretty much what you figure on. If someone buys it at auction, that's probably about the highest bid you're going to get. Because a lot of people that are going to want that, they're going to want to tear the building down. It's going to cost them somewhere between $300,000 and $500,000 to tear down the building and then use the property. So they're not going to want to pay huge bucks. But for us to keep the building as a landlord for the church, I'm not sure that that's the best use of our resources to do that. So that's just my story. So I'll move on to the next one. Why not maintain the current situation? Right now, 5 Points has 150 more students than Dennis. Next year, it's going to be at least 50 more than that, so they'll have 200 more than Dennis because they're getting more students and Dennis is getting a few less students. So the class sizes are starting to become very disproportionate in terms of how many kids you have in each class with each teacher. We have no rooms to grow. I mean, they've got 29 kids in the class up there. You've got two options that if you want to maintain the current situation, you're either going to have to build, which would cost you about $2 million because you're going to need to match construction and all to make it look, you know, that's a two-story academic wing. And if you don't build a two-story academic wing, it doesn't make sense. So you're talking minimum at least $2 million. If you do modular buildings to maintain that, you're looking at about $500,000 to purchase the modular and then place it, and then you've got a very long area that you've got to provide a covered walkway and security, whether it's fencing or whatever, so that the students can move safely in and out of the building. So you got a lot more cost there than you do in some other locations. We are going to need 4 additional buses if we stay in that location. That's no matter whether we go move somewhere else or what. You're going to need some more buses. Right now, the 5 Points buses are packed. We've got to add some additional routes up there next year anyway. So that you're looking at somewhere around $500,000 for that if you maintain there. If you move them, you're still going to spend at least 1 bus up there because they're pretty full. Why not put a 2nd grade level at SI? That's another one. It's a beautiful 1929 building that's had about 7 or 8 additions on it over the years. It has 12 different roof transitions, which we had fun with this summer while we were trying to re-roof the building. But the infrastructure of the building, the plumbing, the HVAC, the electrical cannot handle 1,000 students a day in the building. It just can't do it. It does very well with the 500 kids that are in there now for 6th grade. In addition, there are not enough classrooms to put a full another grade level there. So you would end up with modular buildings in the back anyway. You guys have already been through that with that building. Plus, it's a nightmare in the morning and the afternoon just with 6th grade. Imagine putting another 500 kids there and having that many more parent drop-offs and buses trying to cram in and out of that building. It just doesn't, it's not a good thing. You could not really use it for anything other than 5th or 7th grade because when they renovated it for the 6th graders, everything is at that height in the whole building. So you don't have anything for the younger students there. So that would be another thing that would make it more difficult because if you put 5th or 7th there, 5th grade it wouldn't be a big deal. But if you put 7th there, then you're having to move other grade levels in other places and it doesn't really solve the problem. Why not use the Educare building? That's another case where it's a great office building that's vacant. We have 0 tenants in it right now. There are no doctors that are actively pursuing that. The 2nd floor is completely unrenovated. It would cost us $2 million. We've already got an estimate on that last year. It would be an additional transition for students, which is not a good thing. Of course, that's not appropriate for 1st graders. It would be appropriate for 7th, 8th, 9th graders, but not for 7th.
STEM center.
That's STEM center.
Absolutely, it'd be great for that.
And then, but there's no room for playground, daycares. It's just, it would not be a good place to have. There would be some other safety issues there if it were young kids.
Like high school kids driving cars.
Yes, exactly.
Advantages of Clear Creek. First and foremost, it's academically appropriate. Not that the buildings they're in now aren't, but to have a true early learning center. I think Springboro would love that after it was here and they saw the impacts of that. It's definitely cost efficient in terms of moving at this point in time. It is the option with least transitions. In other words, the kids are there for 3 to 5 years, depending if they take our preschool, which is clearly the best preschool around. So that is something that is beneficial to kids and their parents. Because what happens when you have a building that's a 1 or 2 year building, about the time you start to build relationships, they move. And when kids are there for a longer period of time, that would be like having a high school that was only 2 years long, and they moved somewhere else. You don't get that chance to really get rooted in, build the traditions, and build those relationships. That's important, even at the earliest levels. Definitely, this would be our limited staff needs, even though we do have some cost plans in here because we're so limited, especially in the area of special ed right now. This will actually end up benefiting Dennis and 5 Points, plus benefiting the 1st grade building as well, because it is going to be staffed appropriately. And of course, we'll have our youngest learners on the bus together instead of having older kids on there. Some of the things that we will have to consider: moving costs, additional materials. We are not taking desks and computers and projectors and things of that nature from Dennis to put at the early learning center for the simple fact we're going to need those at Dennis. When we have the Chromebooks and things of that nature, we're set up to have a mobile learning environment to where the kids are able to spread out, learn some different things. Perhaps some of those empty classrooms now at Dennis might become a science lab or a STEM center, more computers. Not that I'm giving the principal any ideas that she probably should do, but those are some things that definitely will be optional to be done. Some of the things we will have to share is art, music, and PE. we'll definitely have to share that, and perhaps reading intervention. We're still going to have to work that out, certainly. So we have truly two options here. One is to build a stick-built brick and mortar building. 4 classrooms, 5,000 square feet, we're looking at about $1.2 million. That is not something you can take a loan on or do an energy project. That would have to come directly out of the general fund, and that would be a major impact right now to our general fund. The other option is to look at the modular units. And I think, do you have the pictures with you? I think we all have pictures of these old dilapidated trailers, and they put a little skirt around the bottom. That's not how these things work anymore. So this is your standard modular unit, not something that we're hoping to get, but rather this. This has a brick veneer, as you can see. It has the vents similar to a crawl space. It has the appearance of a regular building. It's extremely nice. They're stick built on the inside. They have probably better insulation than a lot of our schools do right now because all of our sprinkler heads broken when we found out we didn't have good insulation. So needless to say, this is a very nice product. As you can see, nice windows and things of that nature. We have said we're not going to have full day classrooms out here, but I'd be willing to bet once parents are able to come and view one of these, they're as nice as the classrooms that are the hard surface inside. But it's just the stigma that comes with these. We're not buying used. We will be buying brand new, and as a result, we're able to design that any way that we like. This is the front of Clear Creek when it had trees. So now it doesn't. What we are proposing is to put the modular unit back in the back as close to the building as possible. John will love to butt it right up to the building. I don't think they'll let us on zoning, but John might be able to talk him into it. Nonetheless, as close as we can get it to the building and have it enclosed to where the kids are able to walk out there. There is a restroom, I think, right in here. Is that correct? So if a child is over here in the classroom, they're already walking here anyways, they would actually have a shorter walk.
How does that impact busing?
Busing? It would not.
It would
All
not.
the buses coming
It
back.
won't. It won't protrude that far out.
Right.
Even if you have 4 of them?
Yes. Well, yeah. If we have about 5,000 square feet of stuff out there, we can manage that. Just maybe a foot or two out into the asphalt, but it should not affect the bus.
And buses right now don't even line up. That sidewalk that you see at the bottom, this is as far as buses come right now. I fit all my buses right here.
But you'll have twice the
Before-
buses.
Yeah, you'll have, yeah.
Well, not twice, but I'll have more than what I have right now. But there's all those spaces are.
And a lot of times when you have multiple kids in the building, they will drop and go. Dennis and 5 Points has went to that instead of having them all line up and then drop. It's more of a drop and go. There is a possibility we'll have to lose a couple trees, correct, John?
30.
Hopefully there's not some ordinance that says we can't cut trees down.
They're already gone.
Okay. All right, I didn't even know that.
Never mind.
Now you know. Let me pull my foot out of my mouth real quick. So there are 2 options, actually 3, that I think in talking with the teachers, and I hope they're all, well, they'll be watching this after it's up, that I did tell the board this. One option that they'd really like to consider is placing this at 5 Points. It's not going to be as cost efficient to place it there, but clearly that's where we're getting. Plus, there are blueprints for some subdivisions in downtown Springboro right now, to my understanding. Don't know where they're at, but there are. So for us to think that we're not going to have some explosion at Dennis eventually with staff and with students, I don't think that'd be the most responsible thing. So we might be setting ourselves up for another $500,000 expense down the road. So the 3 options, one would be at 5 Points, which if that's what you so choose, we're ready to do that. The other is to move only 5 Points to Clear Creek. It's about $50,000 less. The other option, which is my recommendation, is to move all the first graders to Clear Creek and have a true early learning center. So I'm not going to say that's going to be the least disruptive by any means, but I think anything good comes with a price sometimes that we have to work through and get the plan to work well. The least disruptive would be to put the modular unit at 5 Points. Now, where we would put that, I don't know. I certainly, yeah, in a $20 million building that's that beautiful, I don't think we need anything out obstructing the view. So that's something we'd have to look at. We need parking lots eventually at 5 Points. There's a whole nother expense. The PTO is going to pay for that. The annual cost to moving all first grade to Clear Creek, we will need one special ed teacher at least, new teacher. That's not someone we're bringing down. This is all new staff. We'll need a half of a counselor. Right now, we will still have almost 1,000 kids at Dennis, and they have 1.5 counselors. Not near enough for what we need here. We're very thin on those. Speech, which is going to be very difficult to find and is going to be more expensive, we need a half person. School psychologists, we're already we have like 4 for the whole district. So that is something we'll need a 0.5, but they're very, very difficult to find. We're actually looking for one now, if anyone has that type of degree. The modular unit, there's a $50,000 installation fee, and in our budget, we have figured in $50,000 a year. The basic model is $36,000, but the one with brick veneer, which I would personally like to go with, in a community like Springboro, I think would be worth, how much more is it? About $50,000. So I think that's going to add another R factor value as well, having some of those things on there. So transportation is about 30 additional, which it's actually probably more than that when it's all said and done. But we already have a lot of it figured into the budget from what we did, so it'll be about 30. So it's $225,000 a year additional. Now, before it's asked, it's going to be what's the impact 5-year forecast? As we'll discuss in the next presentation, we have 3 teachers that will be new that will impact our general fund. What we aren't figuring in is we've already had 4 or 5 teachers retire, and they make like $80,000. So when someone that makes $80,000 retired, we're able to purchase 2 teachers, basically. It's about $45,000 a teacher with benefits. So that is going to offset this cost a little bit. So it's not crystal clear yet, but by the May forecast, it will be crystal clear, the actual cost of this. The benefit's going to be, if both come together, we're capturing some savings by having 1 or 2 teachers that stay at 5 points to deal with the overflow of students there. The one-time cost, we will need to buy smart boards at the tune of $20,000, document cameras at $5,000, projectors at $9,000, furniture at $10,000, modular unit installations $50,000, moving staff, we're going to use our own employees to move staff, our maintenance crew, about $10,000. That's quite the undertaking to move staff, which is $104,000 for just 5 points. If we move them, it's about $27,000 just to move them to Clear Creek. So basically the cost difference, we're looking at $77,000. One-time cost would be the difference, and then the annual cost is about $50,000, which is the cost of the actual modular unit. So the recommendation clearly is to move all of the first graders to Clear Creek. But again, we're entertaining other things. We really need an answer on this by the end of January, the second board meeting in January. We're going to have to. So you're going to talk about the first one, make it decision second. So that's the goal, because we need to move on staff big time. And this is something, there's a lot of angst when it comes time to move teachers, rightly so. They're concerned about getting their classrooms moved. And a first grade teacher's house is like moving a house. I mean, they have a lot of manipulants that need to be moved. So I would like by mid-February to be able to tell them what their assignments are, to get these positions posted, so we get the cream of the crop of the people we hire that are new. So that is something we really are going to need to know. The timeline, again, we'll gather estimates to have specifics on the hookup fees, where it can be placed, all that. At the first board meeting in January, we'll have all those answers. We'd like to have the final recommendation approved by February, finalize building design by March, secure the funding, which is going to come straight out of our general fund. There's no loans with this. Secure all permits by April, and by May, they should be on the ground so that we have all summer to move the staff. And then there will be some, when staff's going to have to work an extra week, we're going to have to compensate them to move because they need to move their own classroom. So that's just the way of the world in terms of moving staff, because it is a big job, no doubt about it. Any questions at this time?
Yep. I have you from Mr. Anderson. I do. Can you help me frame the problem, because you guys deal in this every day, and you kind of roll into the solution, but I'm not sure I understand exactly what the problem is. So step me through that. Let me ask a few questions then. What's the enrollment that you expect in first grade? We have 350 kindergartners. we know that we get additional first graders who don't attend kindergarten here, but what are you expecting as enrollment for first grade
It would
next
be
year?
somewhere in just under 400 students.
It's around 400.
Correct.
And if I use, and I'm not saying this is the ideal number, but it's math I can do. If we said that there was 25 kids to a class, we would need 16 first grade classrooms.
Correct.
And so right now, we think Dennis is okay, right? I mean, you're talking about 5 points. Now, how many first grade classrooms are there at Dennis?
10.
There are 8 at Dennis, 10 at 5.
10 at 5 points, 8 at Dennis. Or 6
So,
at 8 at Dennis.
8 at
8 at
Dennis,
and 10 at 5.
and at 10, so we have 18 classrooms.
Correct.
Correct. Because
Okay.
of the inefficiencies between
Okay.
Having
the
two
split.
buildings.
But we have 400 kids at 25 kids each class, we would only need 16.
Correct, so we're gonna capture 2 that can deal with the overflow that's already existing at 5 points.
Well, I'm confused. We have 18 classrooms of first graders today between the 2 buildings.
Right.
But based on the enrollment that's coming, we need 16. If we
Right.
had 25 per class.
Right. We probably only need 16 now, but when there are 2 different buildings, you end up with odd numbers. That's why I combined Dennis with 5 points. We haven't hired a teacher since we've been there, because when you combine together, it saves on staff.
Okay. So the 8 classes at Dennis, I guess, are below 25 kids class. Okay, so let's focus on 5 points then. And so we have 10 first grades at 5 points. And how many kids do we expect at 5 points then? I'm trying to get an idea how many classrooms
Well, it's not just first grade,
Right.
that's the problem.
That's
The
the
problem
problem.
is that as the construction occurs and people move in, they're not just bringing first graders with them, they're bringing all other grade levels.
Right.
And so you've got some classrooms at
Well,
5 points
but
that are
you're-
30 to 1.
We can go there, but I'm trying to understand the problem.
See if this helps. So I basically have to redistrict in kindergarten every year. Because if I would have kept my sizes this year, I would have been running about 24 kids in my AM, who all feed into 5 points, and about 18 or 19 kids in my PM classes that feed into Dennis. So when I send kindergartners out, I send a much higher number to 5 points than I send to Dennis.
Okay, so I guess, let me, I gotta go slow here, guys, because I don't deal with this like that. If we could wave a magic wand and put more classrooms at 5 points to solve the immediate problem, we would want how many more classrooms at 5 points?
Well, if
At least 4.
minimum, that's what I'm saying, minimum, you're gonna need 4 to solve the immediate problem.
Okay.
Unfortunately, with the anticipated construction that's going on based on housing permits that have been issued, you're probably looking at needing somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 to 6 classrooms minimum.
Okay, so if I go to Clear Creek, it's not full now, how many classrooms are open and available for use at Clear Creek?
That's a hard question to answer because it depends on what you say is open. I have a total of 30 square classrooms that are all the same size. Then I have 3 larger classrooms that have different uses right now.
And one has water in it for art. I learned that.
But I have done it all 3 ways, with 16 teachers coming, 17 teachers coming, and 18 teachers coming. And they will all fit in a classroom.
Yeah,
So
our
how many,
issue,
how
Jim,
many,
is-
how many open classrooms are there that we could put a teacher in to teach a first grade class
At Clear Creek?
at Clear Creek?
Well, the reason it's hard to answer your question is I have 9 kindergarten teachers right now who have a class in it every single day. And then I have 3 preschool classrooms that have a classroom in it every single day. But then I have classrooms where maybe there's a speech therapist in a whole classroom, or a reading intervention teacher who's in a whole classroom. So when you say that are empty, they're not technically empty right now, but consolidating those people that do smaller groups will open up enough classrooms for me to service them.
Could we find 6 classrooms in Clear Creek out of the 30, potentially, to put 6 first grade classes there? I guess that's what I'm trying to get
Yeah,
at.
we
That
could
would
just
be-
put 5
yeah, we
points
could just
there.
go 5 points first graders.
Yeah.
That's one of the options.
Yeah.
You could put
Well,
5 points first graders in.
You're going faster than I'm going. We have the need, immediate need for maybe 2, but maybe an eventual need for 6 that could buffer us for a while. And is there room for those 6 in Clear Creek? I think I heard the answer is we can make that happen.
Well, but also remember that this isn't just the first grade problem, 5 and 6, it's all the grades.
I'll let you get there.
The older grade level.
Just help me understand where we're at. And then it's Springboro Intermediate, we have open classrooms too. Correct. And how many are open and available for use there?
We have approximately 8 classrooms that are available.
Okay. And I think you said that that's not suitable for first grade, but it might be suitable for 5th grade. So, it looks like the number of rooms that we need, we have. It's just not maybe in the ideal place. Is that fair?
But no matter what we move, we will have to have additional staff. I cannot
Well,
absorb.
I think that's a given.
In addition to that, I'm definitely going to advise the board not to spread kids in between buildings, because parents, this room will be packed if you do that. Because the number one issue is going to be when they drop their kids off and pick their kids up, it's going to be very difficult if we try to
I'm
spread
not
the kids out.
suggesting a solution. I'm just trying to understand the issue. And again, I've asked before. I'm trying to understand also why we can't use the space that we have available, because we have. It looks like we have enough space available.
Well, what would we do? Split the first grade, some to one building and some to the other?
Well, you know,
I can't
all
take-
the kids start in. I'll propose another option, and people can comment on this or not. But we have all the kindergartners at Clear Creek now, and then we take them all and we move them, disrupt them, if you will. We disrupt their lives and we move them to either 5 Points or we move them to Dennis. Well, why couldn't some of them stay in Clear Creek? I don't know how we would define that.
We're going to have a staffing issue with that.
I'm just let me finish. Just let me finish, please. Okay, now if we need new staff, the new staff could come to Clear Creek. I mean, we wouldn't have to necessarily disrupt the people who are in the buildings today. If we need new staff, they could go to Clear Creek and we could have a first grade satellite there, and those kids then would join their class, the other classmates that they had in kindergarten at 2nd grade, wherever they would need to go. I guess we're talking 5 Points, so I presume go to 5 Points. Now, depending on how many kids you would keep at Clear Creek would depend on how many openings you have there at 5 Points. And it would seem also that you could do something similar. Now let me, before I move on, that's not necessarily a bad thing for everybody, because maybe some first graders have a sibling that's a kindergartner and they might actually prefer to stay there. So I don't know that we should assume that that's something that parents are going to be irate about.
Yes.
And I think sometimes,
Yes, we
I think
would,
sometimes
we would.
also, I think back that it wasn't too long ago that the board made the tough call and they said, hey, we're going to close Jonathan Wright and people are going to move, and your first graders are now going to move to 5 Points at Dennis, and you really don't have a choice, because that's the thing that makes economic sense for the district, and we think that is an educationally satisfactory solution. So, I mean, at some point, we get to make the tough call, and when parents come and complain to you, which they'll do, you can say, Jim or not,
Yeah, we'll reelect.
I do that a lot.
But, so you could create some space in 5 Points by keeping some first grade kids at Clear Creek. And likewise, you could do the same at Springboro Intermediate if some 5th graders were designated for Springboro Intermediate. You could potentially create more space there. And I understand that there's logistics. We have logistics no matter what we do, right? We have busing issues and we have food service issues and all that. No matter what we do, we're gonna face some of those. But
Let me say this before the issue isn't like having a classroom teacher. That wouldn't be hard in that situation. The issue is going to be our special ed, our counselors, our school psychologists, people like that, because we can't take like all the special ed kids and put them in one location of service. We can't do that kind of thing based on disability. So what we do, especially at the young age of first grade, is the kids will display these, then when they get into an intervention assistant team, and then about mid-year is when we start identifying the youngest learners with IEP needs and things like that. That's why we then have to start adding staff. Well, we have them in 3 different locations, it's gonna cost us more money on staff. Having them in one saves us, we don't, it's actually, we're creating teachers at Denison 5 Points because we only need to hire one at Clear Creek. And then the 2 that we save, because we now only need 16 instead of 18, that's 2 more that we don't have to hire. So, I mean, we're talking as much saving and adding staff as we are to do this. So it's end up probably going to be a wash, but really the only savings when you do that is $50,000 because you don't have a modular unit. But I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm done, thanks.
You have 30, so you have 21, for argument's sake, you have 21 classrooms that are available in your building outside of the specials and everybody that's kind of spread out there. So if you can say you have 21 rooms out that are not educating a full class of children. Is that accurate?
No, I have 12 classrooms that are being used right now.
But that, so in each class there's 20 children or 20?
9 kindergarten and preschool that are
Preschool.
classrooms every day.
Forgot about the preschool.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, that, yeah, I know.
Then 30, so.
So yeah, so that's, is that 16, 18? So again, why do you need portables for all the specials and all the other stuff?
Well, if I take on 18 teachers, I don't have room for, right now, what I've looked at for the modulars, I don't have room for music, I don't have room for art, I don't have room for speech or. I do, no, I have all that. We don't have computers. They don't go to lab. First grade don't get carried to lab.
So you actually have 18. You say you're going to need 16.
16 or 17.
So there's 2 extra available rooms for something.
I have to have 2 special ed rooms.
You have to have 2 special ed rooms.
And we have to have some room to grow.
Well, one step at a time.
I mean, that's why we're in this situation now. I'm projecting
just-
out far enough.
And there's 2 gyms in there, right? Is that one?
One's a cafeteria.
One's a cafeteria. The cafeteria's up in the front left.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, the other option is, we do have crime time for all state, and all states, you know, there's about 15 kids in there. We could relocate that to another building, and we could actually build 2 more classrooms up on the stage. I don't know how adequate they would be for an actual classroom.
Well, with special ed,
We could certainly use those.
Or music, if you want.
Dr. Malone?
Well, a couple of observations and the back, I guess a couple of questions. I guess my observation is that we have open classrooms at various locations throughout the district. So physically, it may work to put given classrooms in these open classrooms, but I can't imagine being an educationally sound thing to do.
Right.
And I think that what I'm looking for is a recommendation really with 2 points. One, educationally soundness. Which option makes the most sense educationally for kids? That's number one. And number 2, which option is going to provide the longest term solution? You know, I don't want us to go through disrupting people's lives and then turn around and in a short period of time have to do it again. So those are the 2 things. Those are 2 things that I think our solution we come up with should address. The one which is most educationally sound and one which offers the longest term solution.
So I get to show a little naivete. How do you define educationally sound? Just
Well, you know, I think great appropriate levels in terms of buildings. I think that there are buildings which are built for certain levels of students. I think that educationally sound is, if you have all the students in one location, you're going to have better resources available. You're going to have more standard approaches to education. I guarantee you, if you put, for example, a first grade class in SI and have some first grade classes in 5 Points and some in Clear Creek, the parents of those students are going to make sure, do everything to make sure that their child's getting an equal education. And I think it opens us up to, that's not happening. It could be any number of factors that go into it, but you know, we want to make sure that our students all do have equal access to education, equal quality, equal resources, and that doesn't happen when you start splintering classes off.
We're 100% correct. And with that, from the student side, 100%, but there's also the professional side. When we have all of our first grade teachers together, we can definitely have a better collaborative environment of where there's the vertical and horizontal articulation of where it saves us money on professional development, it saves us money on textbooks, materials. We can have our own room to where they're sharing materials. And that one, like I said, the reason right out of the chute, I knew it was a no-brainer to consolidate all Dennis and all the 5 Points. From being a principal for 12 years, you buy a ton of materials. The more separated and segregated people are, the more it costs. So that would be the main benefit. But I can just tell you from logistics, if parents have kids spread all over the place, they're going to be here, because what it does, it's more transition for the youngest kids. Now, are they getting a great education at Dennis and 5 Points in first grade right now? Absolutely. So I cannot argue with if we put a modular at 5 Points. The only thing is, I think we're going to need more modulars at 5 Points than we will if we bring all the kids to Clear Creek in the long run. It'll cost more money. But they are getting a great education already in an elementary building.
So, John, Mr. Pennell, sorry. Not that I'm in building business much, but the only number that threw out that doesn't click with me a little bit, I'm sure you've got the data for it, so I'm just, but I've got pricing for building school facilities in here and a couple other places, and for the 5,000 square feet you threw out, it felt a little bit heavy. Is there something special that we have to do that would create? I think it was like $240 a square foot. I don't know if we're doing something really special with the building, or it's got some sort of major new requirement, or we're doing some sort of prevailing wage or something. It just felt a little rich.
No, that was based on estimates that we received from Steve Emmett, SHD.
Engineering estimates, basically?
Yes.
Okay. That would be
basically those 4 classrooms at Clear Creek would be, if we did a construction piece,
right.
It would be a standalone, so an HVAC unit on the roof.
Right.
The only thing that would be connected to the building besides the building itself would be the fire system.
Sure. I know Steve Hammond probably done a lot of estimates. I guess if they would have been closer to 140 a square foot, 145 a square foot, I would, which is still more.
Correct.
It's probably still more than $500,000. I'm just trying to. I don't know if I like. I mean, if you're going to do something, I don't know if I like this portable hard. First of all, I have a little bit of a philosophical problem that we have space. I understand what you said, Dr. Malone. I understand what you're saying about bringing people together, and I was here when you brought the buildings together, and we went through discussions of the 2 principals in the one building had there was 2 separate things going on for the same kid. So I got that. I guess I would challenge us not to bring a portable into a play and figure out how to maybe move towards that. I mean, we still have conversations about money coming up, you know, and I'm just trying to think if moving step 1 with plan and next year or something, the pipeline money can change something, maybe that building can be a year out and you can get everything done and not all, and still accomplish the goal that you're not doing it partly. I'm sensitive to spending money.
Well, if we were to build, the plan for that would be to only move 5 Points while the building's being constructed, because we do have room just for 5 Points at Clear Creek while the building's being constructed.
Well, no, what I heard is if you build, I heard you have 16 rooms you need, and there might be some wiggle room. And even if you build now, I guess you're going to spend, I didn't understand the numbers. It's $275,000 plus $50,000 a year.
The cost of a modular unit is $400,000 to purchase.
One modular unit?
Correct. It's a $50,000 installation fee and then $50,000 a year lease fee preceding that.
So it's $2 million. It's $1.6 million for the modular.
No, it's $400,000
It's about $400,000
to purchase it outright.
To purchase about 4,000 to 5,000 square
Okay, thank you, sorry, that's not, it's one modular that's broken into 4 classrooms,
Yeah.
that's 4 to 5,000.
Right.
Sorry.
Okay,
Sorry,
see?
we weren't clear on that.
Sorry.
Well-
Sorry, we weren't clear about that.
We
Sorry,
looked
it
at
was
this
clear to
all
us.
day,
We've been
so,
talking
you know,
about
we're
it.
thinking this is clear to everybody, but it's clear to us.
Well, I think a modular is a classroom, not a modular is 4 classrooms.
Yeah,
That's 4 classes.
Oh,
I'm thinking one building
Sorry.
with
That's
4
amazing.
classrooms,
One building.
in one building,
That
all
would
in
have a
close,
single entrance that's coming.
okay,
We'll
so,
fund it up against the building.
brand new.
I understand, so it's 400, so it's $450,000 plus $225,000.
Yeah, it's gonna be 225,000 either way for the staffing, what's 175, because you pulled the 50,000 out, and actually, no, you still have.
No, you're still spending it, don't pull it out, it's 50/50.
But I'm not gonna say that's gonna be complete hit to the 5-year forecast, because we are already seeing staff leaving it. There's gonna be some wash in there.
Well,
when it's all said and
so
done.
we're talking $750,000 for the modules, roughly, approximately.
But you'd have to buy them outright. We're not buying them outright. We'll do a lease purchase. Because right now,
If we had gotten the pipeline money, we were really planning on trying to do the construction, bring 5 points down there right away, and then, because there's a 12-month lead approximately to do the construction of 4,000 square foot classrooms.
well, and I'm gonna say,
I
do
haven't
we
talked to
have
you.
the money in our budget to do it? Yes. But again, I'm gonna be open. We have staff that we have to support. 35 to 40% are new. We cannot get back to the pay freeze or saying we have to run a levy to pay staff. We have the option not to go down that route. So based on the economic environment, things that's happened over the last 2 years, we're living within what we have, what we can have.
Well,
I'm struggling also with the concept of a modular. We had, I haven't been back there, so I don't know. We had a modular training facility behind the central office.
It was extremely old.
I'm that old because I'm not that old and it wasn't there. It wasn't there on my first term on the board.
Well, I'm not gonna relate it to your age, but it was old and it was nasty.
It had to be less than 10 years.
I needed an allergy shot every time I went out there for a meeting.
It was moved from S office. It was originally one of the ones that was at S office.
1931.
I guess my point is they're not from instructions, right? They wear out.
Well, it depends on how you do it. If you spend the money on the brick veneer, it's more of a permanent structure. And PacFan as well as Scott's, William Scotsman, and a couple of the others, they actually can do more permanent structures than that. There are permanent modular structures out there that have been out in schools for years. But the key is, it's not, with most of those modular buildings, with the skirting, there's not proper insulation on those things. The ones that are made that are more permanent, that's why it costs a little bit more money. And we're looking at more than 400,000 range than 250,000 range, is that you get better insulation as well as they actually come and they put it together and it's going to be part of the building. The colors will match. You would, if you know it's there, you'll know it, but it's less likely to be there.
so, can I ask an operations question?
No.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted. Sorry for being a difficult person to describe.
It's okay.
5 points, Dennis. I mean, the X shape on those buildings, I was around for the, well, not that, for the construction building. The X shape was designed to have classrooms at the end of those. That's probably what Steve and Paul was estimating, right?
$276 a square foot.
And so, we're probably not at the point where we can justify that expense, maybe not at the point where we can do that. So, I guess what I'm struggling with is, we have the space, maybe not ideal use, but why not use that space temporarily as kind of I say, an interim solution? Until we get down the road a little bit and find out what this development is going to bring us in terms of students. Because right now we're speculating. I mean, we're thinking we got 400, but really it's it's not a capacity issue as much as it is a balancing issue. I think you told me that well, I did the math. We need 16 classrooms, but we have 8, but we don't. If we could move some of those 5-point students to Dennis, it probably solve itself.
Redistricting. You're really talking about redistricting.
So, the problem isn't an immediate problem, but it's one that we think is coming because of these developments. I'm not sure.
It's an immediate problem. We cannot open 5 points to get that.
Let me back up. It's an immediate problem at 5 points today, but we do have space we can use.
Not at 5 points, no.
At Clear Creek or Springboro Intermediate, as we talked about earlier, we have that space that we could potentially use. Might inconvenience somebody, maybe it would inconvenience somebody, I don't know, but we can do that. I mean, space is available to do it.
We're really only gonna save about $50,000.
We can go down the road a little bit and find out if this enrollment is going to increase and justify maybe a permanent addition to those buildings. And I'm like Dave in this respect. I hate to see us put a modular up because I think ultimately it'll end up being permanent. We'll end up wanting a permanent building anyway. And then, you know, if we get to the point where we can demonstrate that we've used our space to the best that we can, the existing space to the best we can, I don't think the community would say, no, you can't, we would deny you the funds to put on an addition. So I think then you come up and propose a permanent improvement to put the addition on the building to satisfy the need. But in order to do that, you have to demonstrate 2 things. That you, 1, you use the space that you have to the best of your ability. And then 2, that you do have the enrollment stream that justifies the expense. And I don't think we're at the point where we should claim either of those. And so I guess that's part of the reason that I'm a little skeptical, is that if we're doing a big maneuver when right now the problem is just a few classrooms. And I'm wondering if we should just address the immediate problem and see what the future holds a little bit, and then maybe do it more comprehensive.
If we're gonna divide kids up like that, and that the board wants to look at that, then my recommendation is gonna be to just move 5 points.
Well, that's what I was just gonna ask. Oh, you done?
Because there would be no, we could survive at Dennis with leaving 1st grade there, so there would be no reason to interrupt them and have kids at all these different locations. We would just move the 5 points kids, and there is still gonna be a transportation cost to that and some staffing. We'll probably end up saving, $100,000 max, because the thing is now we're really not gonna save on the 2 teachers. So we're still gonna be, see what I'm saying? So, I mean, an immediate solution is to just move 5 points and leave Dennis as is. Well, there is no need to interrupt the Dennis kids for this. Just 5 points 1st grade. If that's the way, and that's one of our solutions.
Go ahead.
You say, well, I'll get to that, but you made a comment, you're saving 2 teachers. I didn't hear you say, I heard you say that there would be 2 extra teachers and they would remain at 5 points. So we're not saving 2 teachers.
If we move just 1st grade from 5 points to Clear Creek, we will probably have to look at hiring some classroom teachers at 5 points.
So that would be for the growth. So my question where I was heading before, operationally, if you take all 1st grade out of 5 points, and there are 8 classes.
There's 10 at 5 points.
10 at 5 points, thank you, sorry. So that's 10 teachers, get up and leave and come to your building, and then whatever other support services that has to follow.
No, we cannot pull them out 5 points. And the reason is there's the transition of a 25-minute drive in between. We will have to hire staff.
25-minute drive from your building to that building?
When you have 5 points a teacher come in from another building, you gotta allow time. If there's traffic, if they're leaving at 2:30 to go back to 5 points with the high school kids, it's a problem.
Oh, yeah.
So beyond that, then there's the setup. And if they're a special ed teacher, they have to be prepared when they walk in. So we have to leave some transition time, 15 minutes to drive, 5 to 10 minutes either way to set up.
And educationally speaking, that would begin the early reading center that we call it. too early learning center. What do you call it?
We'd only have half of our first graders there, early learning center.
But
But even early childhood, early learning.
But I mean, yeah, if you would have
Right.
you would have that flow at the beginning of it, education would be one of your recommendations, so education, it would be, okay, we wouldn't have to do the bills until next year. And that would free up, is that free?
We're gonna have to spend extra money in the move, it's a given.
Yeah, whatever you put up there, 175,000, I think it's what you put up there. And then does that leave then 10 classrooms at 5 points, totally open and available for growth?
Correct. That's an option.
Okay,
That's
thank
one of
you.
the options that we proposed.
I can interject, it really only leaves 9. They're using a very small special education room that's out in the main hallway that was at a first grade classroom. We really don't.
Well, they're gonna have 9 rooms to flex into at 5 points.
How many I know that there have been a lot of moves in Springboro. We've only been here for 5 years. We were part of one of them when the kindergartners went from 5 points up to first grade. And I know that there are a number of options that you looked at. But have you also considered possibly making between 5 points and Dennis, making one of them a 1 through 3 building and making another one 4 and 5? And what sort of considerations would go in there?
Yeah, unfortunately, because your transportation here is so efficient, there is no extra time to do anything. So you're looking at having to turn the school another time. So you're looking at putting in a 5th term of the district, which means that we don't have that time. You either would have to have the high school start at 6 a.m. and Clear Creek end at 6 p.m., or you're going to add 18 buses and drivers, which
Right.
is
But how does the expense of that compare with some of the expenses that we're talking
you're
about?
looking at 18 buses at $90,000 a piece, plus 18 drivers at $30,000 a piece per year. So you're looking at, a lot more money.
Yeah, because if we did that scenario, we would look at 2, 3 at one building, 4, 5 at the other, and the kindergarten first, preschool at one. Instructionally, that's best.
And you'd save the most amount of teaching staff.
Absolutely.
At that, but you'd have a significant increase in transportation, because then you're transporting the entire district for every single school.
Well, because I know for some of the state indicators that are coming down, there's a lot of K through 2 going on and a lot of, K through 3.
Right.
And if you're moving first grade back down, you're losing like some of the gifted reach, which I didn't see listed on here. You have special ed and some other things, but there's no gifted consideration for first graders as they move away from where they're being coached now, because of the new indicators that are coming. So I guess I'm just curious, to Jim's point about sustainability and continued growth and things like that, if you have a continued imbalance between geographies, does it make sense to look at that? And there may be a big investment, but it may be something that if you're going to do 10 years of a certain model, it makes sense to do that.
I came to speak to I always come to board meetings, and I didn't really think it affected me because I have a 4th grader now, that's my youngest. But as I sat here, I had no clue, and I'm pretty read into stuff, I had no clue how much more kids there are in 5 points versus Dennis. I mean, our kids in 5 points, I'm not sure, what are the average class sizes? Because we have to do something. Because it's not fair if Dennis kids are going to 24 in a class and my kid or your kid or whoever is at 29. So, that's a big difference.
Right now, first grade at 5 points, it's my understanding they're the 24, 25 in first, and in Dennis, they're 20, 21.
We're talking
That's not a problem.
We're talking
4th and 5th
Yeah.
is astronomical.
Yeah.
It's 29 across the board at 5th.
In Dennis too?
Do you know your 5th grade classroom sizes?
Fifth grade, I would say we're probably closer. 4th grade, yes, but then I'm sitting with 3rd grade classrooms at Dennis currently that are like 29, 30. That's our, gifted groups. But, so each grade level, has their different variances, let me say it that way.
Then she brought up a whole nother topic, that's her gifted room. Other rooms might have 20.
Yeah, because for us 5 points parents, we think 29 is normal. That's what our kids have been in the whole time.
29 is very normal in a lot of other districts.
Well, but what I'm saying is if that's not normal at Dennis, we have a bigger problem.
It is normal at Dennis in a lot of
Okay.
I today, I know the class sizes, because I sat there today and counted out pencils for every class for the PTO, took them in back. First grade is at about 22 or 23. When you get up into fifth grade, you're at 29, 28. There are even some third grade. My third grader has 29 and 50. But, so, I mean, the ones in the middle kind of varied. But they were more into 25, 26, but then 27. But then when you got up into the class size got much bigger. But our first grade is at about 23 or 24. There was a couple with 24, 25, but they were.
Well, in our second proposal, which may or may not happen tonight, I addressed class sizes, and I didn't have that in there earlier in the week on board docs, but to give some true cost figures of what it would cost to drop our class sizes across the district, high school included, because they're high. We have a lot of classes in high school right now, 30, dropping them down to around 25 kids a class. I think the perception is, go hire 10 teachers, but I don't think people realize when those salaries go in, it's like a machine, and they escalate rapidly. So it is extremely expensive when we look at these things.
I think one of those, I'm sorry, Trustee. No, no. I didn't want to belabor this comment. I think one of the things you put up on your slide, when I got on the board, we had the city and the township planning department directors come and talk to us, and it was about growth, because obviously everything's stalled. But they did say at that time, this is 2012, there was 4,000 free blocks in Springboro, Faircreek Township. So I think it's inevitable that we're seeing some activity, and we're probably going to end up seeing some ratcheting at some point. So the chief, the question is, that improvement levy you're talking about is an interesting idea. So I don't think Springboro has one, but it'd be a better planning tool. Maybe the short-term fix to 5 points. I mean, I like that idea right now, just because of the next conversation we're going to have. But I'll stop.
I think we probably need to move on because we got much more to talk about. But in essence, I agree with Dr. Malone as far as educational and what's best for these children. And I think Jim brings up a good point. There's some good points out here. There's a bigger picture. So I'm not so sure we wouldn't be better off bringing the 5 points children in Ms. Johnson's class
Just further
building,
investigation.
and then leave the dentist kids alone, and then establish committee, some looking into, some of the what the future holds for the segmentation perhaps, and some bigger issues. Because I think that way, then it's least disruptive. It's probably the most economically feasible. But we aren't just spending a lot of money and then a year from now thinking, oh man, I wish we had that. So that seems,
Mr. President, what we're really looking at though, and listening to everyone, is a redistricting plan. And what's going to happen to Springboro is we're going to move from hometown pride to now we are a true city school like Mason. And every year, we're depending on where the kids live, we'll have to start looking. Well, that's what redistricting works.
I know, but maybe we want to be careful about how we phrase that, because the way you're putting that, you're going to scare everybody to death. That Springboro is growing. I can tell you, there were empty lots everywhere. Now they're all full around me. Across the street, across Funnel Hill, those houses are going up like crazy. It is going to happen. So we might as well. I would rather do what we need to do now with good sense, and then look at the bigger picture with a lot of input, see what we can come up with.
We're doing that with instructions.
Yeah, right.
I'm going to advise you on. Sometimes there can be confusion, and each year at the last minute, you're having to look at where kids live, set your boundaries. But that is how you would capture the 21 empty classrooms. So it's for redistricting.
One of the points that you made in your presentation was that bringing the first graders into the preschool and first grade building is what's best educationally for those kids. So how do you justify to the first graders that go to dentists
that they're not gonna get that benefit.
Well, and I've made it clear, the first grade that we have now
I
is very
understand
good.
It's great, it's great.
But bringing them together to
Bringing them
create a
together is
true
better.
learning.
I'm telling you then that I want my first grader in 2 years to stay at fifth grade. You're a dentist. I am a dentist.
Well, hear
And
that
I
from
love
the
dentist
dentist
parents,
parents,
because
'cause
I
you.
love dentist teaching. I love their education, but if you're telling me that that's a better educational setting for first graders, I want that benefit.
Early, any research you show, putting developmentally kids together up to age 6 years old in a learning environment is best practice. And you're not gonna beat that. Now, if you disagree with the social and emotional aspect of the developmental aspect of kids, you're gonna disagree with it. But the social and emotional aspect of kids cannot be ruled out in education. It's essential. So it's gonna be whichever camp you're coming from on the social and emotional. It's a big deal.
Well, then is that gonna be an option? Because I want my child to have that benefit.
Well, our problem is, and what's interesting is we found a plan from 2011 that was going to be expedited then. But our problem is now, is our back's to the wall at 5 points. We can't open it again next year with first grade there.
Right.
But the rational decision, that's why it was one of our options, was to give the board 2 options. 1, go for the gold and try to fix the solution, or 2, here's a temporary fix that's going to allow us to truly investigate it for a year, which means we'll probably even have to look at some research firms to help on this a little bit, because it is a big issue. When you start moving kids from 5 points to dentist pay, and it's really going to impact just 5 points of dentist if we redistrict. It's not going to impact so much the high school.
There's already a dentist versus 5 points atmosphere in this district.
And that's why it's going to be hard to move.
And I'm not here to say that one gets better education than the other, because they don't. They have fantastic teachers and fantastic administrators at both of those buildings. But when you start giving the benefit to half of the district and not to the entire district for the same grade, you're gonna tear this city apart.
From a parental perspective, you need to be consistent with all of first grade.
So if you want to put first graders there, and so maybe you do this for a year or 2 while you figure out how you want to deal with it. Whatever you do for the first graders, you do for all first graders.
And what's the cost of a committee? Like now we're talking about committees and we're talking about exploration. So that cost isn't even getting equated into the conversation that you're having right now. So you're talking $700,000, but then you go spend $200,000 to figure out a problem. That's a waste of money.
It is, but we have a lot of options here to look at, which, you know, Laura brought up a good one of 2, 3 at one building, 4 or 5 at the other. And
I think that's a great idea, actually, and that's actually, I'm glad you said it, because that's what I had in my head. But
You and I can work out the bus schedule.
that gets into the bus thing. So, what you pay now or you pay later, right? So you pay a little bit more up front, but you're not paying. I'm going to make up a number: $5 million 5 years from now. So.
Well, I mean,
Right.
we're looking at about $1.5 million a year that we're going to need. It's going to have to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
That's what we're looking at. For all of the above options, we're looking at about $1.5 million that we need that we don't have coming in right now. Now, that is if you want to support staff. It's not there. So
We have
we don't. There's no doubt about it.
So,
This is a stupid question. We own our buses.
So,
Yeah.
so there's basically 2 of them.
Why don't we?
There's a temporary fix until we can research it and get more options, or we can go ahead and move the kids. But the thing is,
All the first grade.
all the first grade.
Oh, and that's what I'm saying.
There's 2 options, and that's what we have zeroed it down to for you, because we've been through this.
that's if we ignore this. I don't like the idea, because I understand what it just said. But all of a sudden, everything's growing out here, and if that school's not gonna hold it, and all of a sudden, so I think it's there, it's kind of there, it's not off the table, I guess, but.
I
think it's something that maybe this committee should talk about, because we're talking about moving a lot of stuff. Maybe eventually we have to do that because the growth just exceeds the capacity of the building, but I guess to be flip about it, if we pulled out a map and we moved the right line, we might balance everything and go big for a few years, right?
But it's not gonna be that simple though. It's based on population of where the kids are at, and that's gonna change each year. So typically, when districts go through redistricting, it's an easy one-year process, if not 2 years. Because it is something that there will be a lot of debate about. When we draw that line and all of a sudden, they're not going to Dennis, or they're not going to 5 Points, there's gonna be an extreme reason why that's the wrong decision.
We're gonna get Congress to help us do that.
And then it never gets done. So a couple more questions, and then we'll move on, because we'll have more meetings to discuss this, especially if we're gonna look at a temporary fix.
Could you please explain how the buses would work if the all first graders were at Gregory?
It would work in the same manner as it works now. There would just be more buses lined up. Is that what you're saying? Or?
Well, I'm just curious, currently AM is those children, they go to 5 Points, so they're inside, and then PM is Dennis. So you have to be ready multiple buses.
No, we would still have the AM, PM set up. It's just now first grade kids would be on those buses.
So they would be on the morning with the AM kids, and they would go home at night,
With
but the
PM
busing
kids.
would be.
And there'd be some additional buses
Yeah.
Routes
that
would
would
be
be their
totally.
service.
We'd have to add some
The
buses.
kid might be on the bus for like an hour.
Right.
No, there's-
No. That's not right.
No,
It's
that-
10:08.
no.
That's not right. We would add buses, so that would not be an issue.
So there would be separate buses to send home the kid, the 5 Points first graders home, and separate buses to send.
Right, the Dennis kids.
You know how many kids to school?
Right, but they would ride with the kindergartners though. So in other words, the first graders in the morning would be with AM kindergartners, and the afternoon would be with PM kindergartners.
Right, but the PM kindergartens are on the Dennis side.
Right, so they would go to the Dennis area, and the Dennis first graders would go to that
The
same
5
area.
Points kids would be on.
New buses.
Right.
New buses.
Yeah.
So how many? So you have to do that the same for the busing for Dennis in the morning.
4 additional, because there is some slop with that we have some
But
buses
it's still
available.
gonna be
that
a
we
lot
can add
longer
some time on, that it,
routing.
not time.
There were already busing plans figured into the 5-year forecast from the past 2 or 3 years, so it was really just an additional $30,000 hit instead of 160 to some extent.
I'm not worried about it.
That's, we would have to add buses to keep that time issue down.
One more question.
One more question.
So throw in another king. We don't have full day kindergarten, and that's the reason my child goes to private school right now.
Mhm.
So it's not full day kindergarten. What if we had full day kindergarten? We're going to need more capacity regardless.
Right, I've studied that. I did that for 3 years and actually did that whole project for the CODA. If we go to full day kindergarten, you have to double your staff. We're looking at an easy $1.5 million to put full day kindergarten here on. And if you look at the research, once they get to 3rd grade, there is a plane that flattens out. So if we tried to say, okay, parents can pay for it, and by May they would have to be signed up. The thing is, it'd be about $5,000 or $6,000 a kid to be able to do that. So it's not an economical thing. It would have to be something that the school district felt was best. And that discussion's happened here before a few times, and the community's never felt that way. So, and I don't know if we're going to get to the other presentation. The things we're talking about, they're all great topics, but they're highly expensive topics. So I'm not saying that they're bad topics. You're looking at I have a plan that's $1.5 million to add staff per year just to get classrooms to 23 or 25. Full day kindergarten would be another $1.5 million a year. And then to do 2nd and 3rd grade, you're looking at another $1.5 million. The next thing you know, you need a $20 million levy to be able to do it. So it's something that, living within reason, this district has been run extremely, whatever the cost was the number one direction that it was taken. So we fill it in academics a lot of times, because instructionally, the 2, 3, 4, 5, K1, it's best. But again, it comes down to what level of service is the community of Springboro willing to support. So yeah, full day kindergarten, worked with it for years. It's a good setup, but I'm not going to say that it's a lot better. And all the research is extremely old. If you go and research about full day kindergarten versus half day, and then there's full day every other day. So there's 3 options out there.
Mr. President?
Hey, Liz,
Can I ask a question? It's easy. Actually, it may be even in line with our conversations tonight. Can we table 10-8, 10-9, 10-11, and I think we've had public participation, but if we need a little bit more, 10-10. Until the 18th, and to amend the agenda.
Yeah. So, we have to, yeah, I think we can. So,
I don't want to.
I retired, I'd favor that too. No, I will say, it's nice that the input, I mean, all your comments, everybody's thoughts, it's very helpful. I think it's nice to hear, so thanks for coming and participating, so. Wait, quick.
Where's the cost of the kitchen in your numbers?
It's not, it falls, there's a separate food service fund that is required to be kept, and when they started the year, they were right around $500,000. So it's, the cost for updating the kitchen could easily be covered by her fund.
But maintenance, I mean, for the staff that's going to work there.
That all comes out of the food service fund. That's why it has to operate in the black, so she would just have to be creative.
So, we wrapped up with this?
We're wrapped.
Okay.
But we're gonna bring it back. And it looks like we're leaning more towards the temporary moving just 5 points and then doing some research on
Maybe.
it. Thanks for the answer, appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right,
So,
we'll bring it back.